Well, giddy on up and welcome back to the LPL. We got ourselves our next matchup between Team WE and Team Snake out here in the Wild West. While we get ready for this next game, Raz, how you doing?
I'm doing well, partner. I had to do it.
Excellent. I love it.
I had to take it.
But now we look towards our next matchup with Team WE and Snake. And again, WE, they won game one. The team has been eliminated from playoff contention. They are playing for pride, and they are showing some uncharacteristic growth, considering how they have only won 4 best-of-3s this entire split.
And decisiveness around a massive objective is something that Snake are taken aback by.
Yeah.
You're like, wait a second, all right, you guys are trying to force the Baron. That was number 1. Number 2 was even more crazier because the Realm Warp play that Shie made towards the Baron buff, being able to burn it, then turn for the fight. This is something you see from the top 4 teams of the league, not a WE. So Snake have tough competition. And with last composition, that was going to be rough. So now going into game 2, they need to be able to take it now, or obviously they have to look towards tomorrow being able to nail down their playoff spot.
And that's so unexpected for Snake to go up against Team WE and see them actually fight back so violently in this final match, because it's Team WE who will decide whether or not it is Snake or FPX that go into the finals. Though Snake will get another chance to play tomorrow against Edward Gaming in their last opportunity. Again, they need a single series win and they lock in their playoff spot. So WE, they might be able to stymie them here today, but there's still another chance for Team Snake. Then to get further into this, Snake, clearly they have to have been preparing for this upcoming matchup.
Yep.
They're just not quite showing the speed that they need to play against Team WE, because it looks like they were expecting slow team fight WE, not macro and rotation WE.
Because their level of preparation, we've seen this from Snake in the past when they have a large gap. This time around was Asian Games, or last time around is in between playoffs or gauntlet runs, that they're change and what they work on is actually just new picks.
Yep.
They have a new pick top lane, sometimes a new pick in the jungle, but you see the same Snake just with a different face. That's what I don't want to see. And what we saw from WE was actually just, you can say something similar to what they had last year, but what we saw was something completely different than the beginning of the split, because what they focused on, while they have a lot of the same picks, was just more decisiveness, stronger calls. That's what their practice seems to be accruing. These are the results of their hard work. While Snake, you don't see much being done. In fact, they get overlapped. They're that evil guy in wacky races. They're like, we're doing well at the beginning of the race, but then we try and be a little bit too creative in the mid portion of the race. We don't work on any of our faults. And we get to a point later on where everyone just overlaps us to the very final
It's
moment.
almost Wile E. Coyote-esque, where they get so close to catching that darn Roadrunner, to getting into the playoffs, getting into the finals, but they overcommit themselves. They drop the Acme Anvil, and the whole thing changes and turns around. But they make their way back on stage. Again, they've still got another chance in this series to try to bring us to a game 3. We'll see if their picks go back to something more standard, and we look towards their play style instead to try and match Team WE.
So what I said last game was I wanted to see the Jacks just because the 2 major picks that we usually see coming out of Flandre were banned out. The Gnar was number 1, and the Camille was number 2. Now, you're not going to be doing too much about the Camille because WE have taken that as a priority ban in first phase. But the Gnar was actually second phase. So this could change Snake's priority in game 2, getting a Gnar in the first 3 picks of pick and ban.
And it was a safe bottom lane priority for Team Snake to try to match WE's very early bottom lane priority that they threw out very early on. So even in that, we're seeing something a bit uncharacteristic for Snake, because they did save counterpick. They focused on the Cassiopeia. They got her first blood. They just weren't able to do anything with it.
I think what should change here is give Guoguo lesser priority in what the matchup looks like, because what we saw was, yeah, great, Orianna versus the Ryze pick, but what they could probably end up doing, and I think game 2 they will, give the top lane priority pick towards Flandre. Maybe you lose the Orianna going into the second phase, but then you can give him a Vladimir. You can give him something that won't necessarily be a good lane matchup, but will still work very well in your composition stuff. Guoguo, when he has that early lead, when he has the early push that he can have mid, is not decisive enough to be able to carry the mantle for the squad. Try and give it towards Flandre, because he's done it in the past so consistently.
I mean, we haven't even really seen Guoguo get early laning advantages in the LPL. He's not very high on the list of high skill or successful mid laners in the league. So, as you said, perhaps shifting that focus away from the mid lane could be a way to do that. Instead of dropping the Rift Herald mid to unlock Guoguo, drop it top to unlock Flandre.
It's a possibility. I think for Snake, they're the only squad that I'll say don't have mid lane priority.
Yeah.
it's just because it's so late in the split that they don't really have the time to really make the best use out of it, which is the worst thing to be able to say. Because I think dropping Rift Herald mid and getting that mid lane tower, you should have so much that you can do with it.
You should.
It is the best way to play out that Rift Herald. But as you said, Flandre is somebody that's actually utilized timing and windows so damn well that giving him the Rift Herald priority would actually do well and wonders for him. Just depends on what pick he gets, again, because if he has the Cassiopeia, there's not much he's going to be doing in roaming across the map.
Yeah, well, we got to see him try to split push in side lanes against 957, but it was actually Xie who was able to keep tabs on that, and I think this is where we harken back to Xie's spring split performance. He was controlling mid lane against Guoguo's Orianna. He was roaming top to affect Flandre's wave and making sure they had to invest 2 control wards that would have been effectively useless if they had decided to commit to a dive. And then later on, he actually did dive onto Flandre and unlock 957 to be a threat in both bottom lane and with his team.
Yeah. So I think a lot of that is just, it just shows how volatile a Cassiopeia can be in side lanes. Because in the top side, you're like, okay, maybe even if he does die, then you give timing for Snake to make a play either on the Dragon or on the opposite side of the map, just going for a bottom lane tower. That was a possibility. But to your second point, where the Jace and Ryze just hopped on top of the Cassiopeia's head, just shows the level of awareness that he had to have, and as a team, the Trundle in this case had to have to basically protect him. Something Snake can't commit to.
They tried to see it in advance by setting up plenty of vision. They tried to prepare themselves for any inevitable dives onto the Cassiopeia, but they just couldn't quite do so because that Realm Warp gets Ryze across so quickly. And Xie, the man on your screen, he was what unlocked that setup for Team WE by following up on Peppers and Invade and dropping constant trails of vision wherever he went to track SOFM.
And I have some bad news for Snake if they end up trying to ban out the Ryze and saying, well, that's...
Yeah, it was the one champion.
It's not going to happen. In Asian games, he played Twisted Fate. And so...
Cassidy. Cassidy.
He played Twisted Fate too.
As well, yeah.
Yeah, so like those 2 picks actually are really good opportunity or examples where he can actually be on the opposite side of the map fairly quickly.
Yep.
I make a mention towards the Twisted Fate because the ultimate is much larger in range.
Yeah.
And also can cover it if he loses out priority mid lane. And so for Xie, him getting across the map that quickly and being able to take advantage of the extra wave you pushed, it's not just a Ryze thing.
Yeah.
And so it's not just about banning
he's got
one
plenty
pick.
of mobility champions.
It's about the strategy he's utilizing.
And that strategy seems to be effective against Team Snake. They're going to have to come up with an answer for that, whether that's swapping to a funnel, perhaps, towards SOFM to enable him to be the primary carry, putting Guoguo on a more utility role instead so that he doesn't have to deal with the Xie mobility, or even with the vision that we saw set up from Snake, though in Game 1 it didn't quite work out that they were trying to track him.
I would say for him, maybe the easiest answer is give him the Galio pick. Just because while we're throwing a lot of picks because we are just that close to pick and ban, Galio makes a lot of sense. We've seen it in Asian games where a lot of it's just about how are you going to protect the rest of your side lanes. In fact, we saw it on Jizuke yesterday when he was going up against Schalke, where the strategy is try and help out your solo side laners or just be that fort in the mid lane. Be that extra tower.
Yeah.
Try and get... they have to get past you before they get towards the mid lane tower. And so it's difficult, it slows the game down and allows you to play around your AD carry.
That is a strategy that Team WE are very happy to do, with Mystic having standout performance on that Kai'Sa in Game 1. Xie doing the same thing through that Ryze in the mid lane. But where do Snake decide to turn their focus? For a quick update for you folks at home, we are having a quick technical delay audio issue for SOFM. Hopefully we'll get that resolved as quick as we can, because hearing the game is very important. You know, humans react faster to sound than visual stimuli?
Oh. Now I do.
I think it's like 100 to 150 full milliseconds faster you react to sound than you react to visual stimuli.
Today I learned. So, you know what? Protect your ears. Love your ears.
Exactly.
In fact, before I got into this studio, I got myself some new headphones with noise cancellation, my ass.
So good.
Insanity. I've never had noise cancellation for my own headphones, so like when it gave me that option, I was like, I just can't hear anything except my own lovely music.
And this is so silly. Did they do the salesman pitch thing where they put it on and they turn it on and then they try to pretend to talk to you?
No.
But they don't actually say anything, and they're just making like...
Is that a strategy?
Yes! It's brilliant.
Uh-oh.
And you're like, wow, these are really good. And the moment you take them off your ears, they're just like in the middle of a sentence like, yeah, they're really good, aren't they?
Hey, yeah, you like them, do you?
Yeah.
Like, wow,
you didn't hear a thing I said, did you?
He's like, oh my
Because you didn't
God.
actually say anything.
That is insanity. And whoever gets caught with their pants down, when the guy takes their headphones off a little bit too
just
quickly.
keeps on making the...
Or maybe another customer coming up to ask the guy a question and being like,
Am I
hey,
deaf?
what?
Am I deaf?
He's
What's
like,
going on?
No. So like those are the types of questions you can never trust in establishment. But now
Yeah.
that I'm aware of that, hello, how you guys doing? Oh, I just
It's
want to
us.
see their faces a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But I understand.
That was Wong.
So to the point, now we talk about headphones because obviously he has some
Audio
audio
issues
issues,
again, yeah.
so he's gonna have to help that one out. I want to see Snake, and it's funny that you said that Galio is a great pick to see Casillas play in the past. That's why I think it's valuable for both teams. I was surprised that it wasn't hit immediately in the last game because for Galio being on. It was early priority in the Asian games just because it gives you so much potential to be able to empower your AD carry and also just straight up deny aggressive teams. WE hasn't really shown themselves to be that aggressive as of yet. I know Pepper can be an aggressive mindset, but Snake are pretty damn aggressive if they find themselves an opportunity around Flandre. So I think giving them the Galio pick to look for a dive around Flandre, or if WE wants to pick it up themselves to defend from that dive. Those are options that they have for themselves that I like to be able to see.
Yeah, and what yesterday's Galio, the Predator Galio starting
Wonderful.
to appear, which is, oof, that's great. It's like Predator Gragas, but in the mid lane, where you activate Predator, start charging the shield of Durand, and you're like, oh, he can't catch up to me, he's slowed, and the Galio just keeps on moving in faster and faster, because Predator is absolutely hilarious.
Yep.
So hey, maybe we get a chance to see that, some inspiration from the EU LCS. But still, we're going to get into that pick and ban as quick as we can once we resolve those sound issues between WE and Snake. Again, SOFM's headset was having a couple of technical issues. Hopefully we'll get that taken care of. We're still looking to see how Snake adapt because they're the ones who are on the back foot here. They're the ones who are a single game away from dropping this best of 3 and their chance at a 4th place seed.
And we had a lot of time to talk about what SOFM's style is, or at least what the ideal strategy for Snake. The sacrifices they're willing to do to actually get them across in the top side of the map is astonishing. Double teleport towards the Jhin and Tahm Kench. In fact, if you are the enemy team, and W in this case, EDG tomorrow, Tahm Kench seems so damn they need the Tahm Kench pick. You already saw that they had it as a first pick priority last game. But for them to say, no flash, I'm just going to protect my Jhin, and if we just die, we're going to try and slow it down. Tahm Kench is needed to be hit, I think, if you're WE.
And what happened to that double teleport, by the way, when they actually did dive Flandre up top? He had the blue trinket, he saw it coming, but there was no double teleport to match it, and Team WE still executed the dive. So perhaps a little bit of miscommunication maybe that they could try to polish up on the day. Still, there is another opportunity for them to try to do that in that next game, and that strategy could still work. I mean, we've been seeing unsealed spellbook out the wazoo for support, so could try to return
it
to
always
deck.
depends on the game state that you're in. I think in that last game, especially when they were holed up into the top side of the map, the moment they use their teleport, that top lane's being taken out because
Exactly.
that Mystic was already so far ahead of that stage. So this is a very tough call for Snake because the sacrifice that they are making in their bottom lane is so large that they give themselves smaller and smaller windows based off of what happens on the first play.
And this is what Snake always do with that bottom lane. It used to be Crystal back in the day.
Yep.
The Draven one trick himself. But the way that Crystal would make up for that was by playing hyper-aggressive champions like Lucian, like Draven, and taking the solo lanes against his opponent. He wasn't the best or most mechanically talented player, but he would still try to one-on-one Uzi and Mystic and try to get kills in that way so that he could get his own advantages because his team consistently sacrifices the bottom half of the map.
And so that's why I was surprised the moment you bring in Light into the equation that they decided to move away from him as well. Go with what's comfortable for the Snake mantra to go to the top side of the map. Because Snake has always learned the hard lesson that our bottom lanes are always inferior to the LPL bottom lanes. That you're not going to be able to go up against Deft or iBoy, whatever EDG would end up having. You're not going to be able to go up against Uzi.
2 years, right?
There's a lot of these players rolling through,
yeah.
and they just can't match them. And so by course, they decide to play away from them. IG decided, we're going to actually give some love towards our bottom lane.
Yeah.
Snake decided that actually now that we've gone to crunch time in week 11 going into playoffs, possible playoffs, that we're actually going to be going with what's super comfortable for us for years. It's not going to net us a championship, or at least it hasn't done so in the past 2 years. But what it's going to do is at the very least get us across the first line towards the playoffs.
They need to be able to make that benchmark first, though. And
Yeah.
a way to do that could be trying to synergize with the rest of the LPL and playing towards that bottom lane. We know SOFM has been playing the Trundle. He's got himself the Gragas and Sejuani, plenty of engage. We're talking about the weakness of Guoguo in that individual laning matchup, which we saw in Game 1 against Xie. If his only choice is either to go to Flandre or let SOFM get SOFM ahead, well, why not try to look for more choices instead of just resigning yourself to that fate and allowing your playstyle to be so linear?
Yeah, linear in the early portions of the game. I think that's something that we have to basically nail them down in saying that the early portions of the game, they only have the Flandre and SOFM factor to play through. Now, Guoguo, at least throughout the tenure in the LPL, shown that he's a great team fighter when he has, at the very least, an even early game. So if he has an Orianna or a Vladimir or just really any mage that he can get to the mid game, he's showing some great Azir play as well, that he can have impactful team fights. But really early on, they need to answer what WE is dishing out. And currently, WE is just firing in all the corners.
Yeah.
Xie is getting ahead on his own. Mystic's getting a little bit of love, but he's also just doing it all well on his own. 957 getting a blind pick Jace. You're not going to punch that, apparently, because Pepper's topside as well. So Pepper did a lot of great stuff early on in the game to defend his laners, but then by that point, really, SOFM didn't have an answer because the lanes were already losing. At least Guoguo's lane was losing. And so we got in a position in the early portion of the game, Snake is conceding too much.
Yes, and they'll have to change that against Team WE because now Team WE are showing us, as you said, an older style. This was the late 2017 style where they're willing to play aggressive through. It was back then Kondi who was invading and Xie who was following up, but now it's Xie who's invading on this rise, at least in Game 1. And we saw that same similar aggression out of him in Asian Games 2008. So it seems to be a little bit expected for Team WE by this point.
It's because now you bring in Pepper, and that's already the state of mind that he had.
Yeah.
You bring in what Pepper had.
You can't play passive when Pepper's your jungler.
Exactly. When you bring in what Pepper had in FPX previously, and what he brought to RNG when he had in a few more games as Yeehaw, Pepper is an aggressive mindset player. And so you being Pepper, there's a reason why he's signing that contract, or at least the reason why you're presenting that contract, is because you need that contrast between what Kondi brought really early on and the natural passive play that Kondi has to the Pepper aggression. Interviews going through his Mystic. Mystic said that he loves how the aggressive style that Pepper brings, and he thinks that the duo that they have between themselves is actually very effective, which makes a lot of sense that you bring in both Pepper and Xie in the same day. It could really prove the point. Maybe it's a good indicator of what happens next split if both of them get brought back in. So I would love to see that. It could be a signs of what's going to happen, the WE
for
in the future.
Yeah.
But it's really fun to see at least Pepper still playing that aggressive style, but a little bit more tame now that he's playing in that team mindset that we didn't really see from FPX.
And it is so tragic that we're seeing this happen in Week 11.
That's true.
And just a little bit before that, I think in Week 9, when he really started to find his stride with Xie. A quick update for you folks at home. We're still trying to solve a technical issue. SOFM's headset is having some sound problems, so once we get that resolved, we'll be getting into our Game 2 between Team WE and Team Snake. And hopefully we can get that all taken care of nice and quick so we can get into this matchup, because still Snake fighting for their 4th place spot. That said, looks like we've got a bit of a delay on our hands, so while we get this all figured out, let's take a look at Amazing Jay in our most recent episode of Face to Face.
Welcome everyone to Face to Face episode 5, where we sit down with BLG's top laner, Amazing Jay.
大家好，我是人见人爱、花见花开的 BLG 上单 Amazing J， 外号国服美男。
In a lot of interviews, you're so candid about your own mistakes and your teammates' mistakes, which is really rare in the LPL. Can you tell us a little about how you guys communicate with each other?
就每一输一把比赛，我们会回去检讨的嘛。检讨的时候，我们每个人都会先说出自己的问题，然后多说出来，然后教练再会去总结。
AJ, your most noteworthy stat is that you take the most damage to kill per death in the entirety of the LPL. What do you think about that?
因为可能我玩的坦克英雄比较多嘛。
You're really well known for your team fights, so I want to ask you, what is the perfect team fight teleport?
像 X6 打 WE 那种嘛。
人都拉得非常的远。
传送绕后了，这边安
没要来了，赌一波了，
要打
赌一波，从后面过来的，在这一个推把两个人推走，弱的坦得住吗？这边的金角闪现出来，
这边要被秒了。
他们的 注意力都在我们的前方，也有那种很关键的控制技能，那种 TP 位置是特别好。
So the key is to come in from the back.
因为从后面来的时候，对面基本都很难反应过来。
I think the story of AJ to me is the story about the value of confidence. How did you build that confidence up and how does it help your play?
S6三级跳的自信是大部分都来源我们两个教练嘛，因为那两个孙大勇跟峰哥他们 S6的时候都会一直给我们洗脑，我们很厉害，我们很强。现在的自信应该是来源自己的单排吧。
What's the origin of your ID?
因为打比赛也有英文 ID 嘛，就有个朋友就帮我改了这个 ID， 我觉得挺好看的，挺好听的，就取了这个 ID。
So you're known as the ancient beauty in the LPL. How did this name come about and what do you feel about the title now?
就我感觉这个名字一开始觉得它是一个对我来说是一个嘲讽嘛，就现在来看这个外号就挺好的。
Why do you think it's a good name?
就古风嘛，我也挺喜欢的。
Is there a meme about yourself that you enjoy?
裸跑还有女装嘛，这种最近的梗就比较喜欢嘛。
What do you think are the main areas of improvement for the LPL?
关键可能是 S5、S6、S7给 LPL 留下了很多遗憾吧。改变了整个 LPL 的风格吧，都变得很敢去打，很敢去拼，所以拼赢了很多比赛。
So it's basically a willingness to all in whenever we see the opportunity.
敢打嘛，以前都是学习别人打法的嘛，现在都是拿自己的一套出来跟别人干。
We have a question from Ling 2018 on Weibo, and he wants to ask your tier list for the LPL top laners.
我觉得比较厉害的是德赛和德阳嘛，因为德赛他的个人实力还有操作还有英雄池都比较深，然后德阳来说他是国际赛里面的表现是最好的最强的，所以我的这两个是最强的三单。
Come on, you have to be one of the top 5. What if we were doing this tier list by looks?
颜值啊，那第一位应该是梅清追，第二位应该是石伟豪，第三位应该是古风美男。
I'm pretty sure those 3 are the same person. Next up, we have a question from Twitter from Fiona. AJ, what do you miss most about Hong Kong?
最怀念家乡的美食吧，因为家乡的味道跟上海的味道确实不会太一样。
Can you tell us exactly what dish you miss?
我最懷念嘅係叉燒包同埋燒賣、魚蛋、蘿蔔、牛雜。
We have a question here from Ming. How would you respond?
我想问一句的话，就因为德杯的时候，他说他拿了冠军就想裸奔嘛，但是当时我们很遗憾的把他冠军给拿了吧，然后他没能看到他裸奔，然后因为没拿到冠军嘛德杯，所以我希望你有什么能补偿这一次裸奔吗？
要是小明真的想看我裸奔的話，佢直接來我們 BLG 基地啊！
Do you have any questions for our next guest?
我想問一下中午選手，就我們2019年春季賽開始，看看我們誰比較瘦吧。
And that will be all from us. Thank you so much, Amazing J, for sitting down.
Thank you and goodbye。
其实我觉得你船长有很多时候很秀啊，
基本嘛。
龙女武啥？能讲述一下那个过程吗？把它讲得生动一点。
大概就是那個版本龍女特別厲害了嘛，就直接飛過去 AAA 就五殺了。
那你就說你最想念早茶好不好？
我最想念他喝早茶。
Welcome back, everyone. We're now ready to get into that pick and ban as our delay has been resolved. SOFM's headset has been solved, and we're getting right in. It's Snake versus WE, game 2 of this matchup.
All right, immediately the Akali being banned on blue side. So we already talked about Gogo's not willing to play the Akali. Flandre has in the past, but a top lane Akali I don't think is what they want at a blue side. So for them, banning it away gives one more pick, or at least one more ban for WE.
Now, we will see Team WE on this red side, so perhaps they could save counter pick for something. And That does mean that Snake will have to show their final 5, leaving WE one last counter pick. But again, it's a double jungle ban as Camille and Gragas are taken away from SOFM. Very similar to WE in that game 1, and still a very early Rise priority, this time for Guoguo to be picked away from Xie.
Surprise, Snake have decided just based off of last game that they want the Rise themselves and putting into Guoguo's hand. The reason why I'm surprised, 2 bans in the jungle position and the no Trundle priority in that one. So WE would have to net the Trundle for Pepper, or maybe they themselves are comfortable going for the Xin Zhao counter.
Instead, we do see a counter pick towards a very strong bottom lane. Varus, Tom, Kench, priority for Team WE with Rakan off the board. That does still leave Alistar and Braum, some very strong champions for Maestro to try to take back in the support role. But now we're looking to see how Snake deal with this. The Jhin Kench did not work out for them too much in that game 1, as Mystic was able to really pop off on that Kai'Sa.
I think the next pick should be the Braum and Ezreal. I say Ezreal because Braum Ezreal Q obviously works alongside the Braum passive. And you have the multiple CC lockdown that you have the Rise and Braum, and you're already just waiting on your jungle pick. Speaking of CC, they said why not bring it to the AD carry position as well. The volley that the Ashe provides in the bottom lane can challenge the push potential for Mystic. So looks like they're going to try and punch back in the bottom lane.
The Freljordian duo down on that bottom side. Now we do see Xie giving us the old Lulu hover as a callback perhaps to that Asian Games performance just a few days ago, and he does lock it in. So looks like Team WE taking a page out of that All-Star Team China book by going for a protect the hypercarry Varus.
That's how he got himself that gold medal. You know, empowering the Varus that was Uzi, that is now Mystic. So this is what you want to be able to see out of WE. Once they can get Mystic going, Ardent Sensor being picked up by Lulu. So you already see double support in this composition. Snake needs to find a way to either dive or to separate. It's going to be difficult. It just decides on their next pick. Either going to be a split pusher top lane for Flandre, or you're going to be able to see them go with a tank pick.
We're certainly going to see as Team WE will have to show us something here. But Team Snake, Flandre, what is he going to look towards? So far, Syndra banned away from Guoguo, so it seems like Team WE are expecting that Rise to go to Flandre up top. Xin Zhao banned away from Pepper after his performance in Game 1. That makes perfect sense. He still got that Trundle open, though.
They can try and find the strongest 2v2 possible. You already saw what happened in the last game, so Xin Zhao and Jace were that pick. Snake banning the Xin Zhao makes it so much more priority is towards the Kindred and Trundle. So I would expect WE to pick up the Trundle for themselves and allow a lot more space for Mystic to work around the Trundle pillar. And so by that point of view, SOFM would lock himself the Kindred.
We'll see if SOFM decides to take up that carry champion. He's already got some big flexibility on that Ashe and Rise. Mundo banned away from 957. But his Gnar is open. This is one of his most signature champions, but Mystic with a bit of a giggle. Looking at a couple of different champions, but still, we'll see what 957 ends up taking blind up top, as it seems as though they're trying to hide their jungle pick for later, unless they do a last-second swap towards that jungle now and try to bait Snake into this Gnar. No, they lock it down.
Pepper has the flexibility to go towards a Lee Sin, so giving him a wider opportunity to see the entire composition for Snake makes some sense. And also, they just know that trading jungle doesn't mean too much for them. Taking the Gnar away from Flandre so they don't have the split push / team fighting options means a little bit more. So it seems like it's more of a takeaway than it is just saying, hey, you know, we don't care too much about the jungle pick.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what Flandre decides to take into that Gnar matchup, as that is the Kindred you were just talking about. Trundle was still open, but he decides to prioritize the damage carry in the jungle instead.
Yeah, they wanted to at least get the hand on the Kindred after the Trundle was picked, so W recognized that and said, we'll just take away the largest value, which is the Gnar, and we're going to pick the Trundle anyways. So I want to see if the Trundle is what WE does indeed pick up, knowing that that's going to be a bad matchup regardless. They can still lock in a Lee Sin that has great utility in his kick, so that when the ultimate comes through from Kindred, you still have one person that you can lock down. So there's a few options that Pepper has for himself.
He's still cycling through. Now, we were talking about what the Galio could do for these teams earlier. It's locked in for Guoguo in the mid lane against Xie's Lulu, which is flexing that Rise up top, as we've been talking about this entire series. So finally, we get the chance to see Flandre play yet another mage in that top lane. This one a little bit more adept at split pushing than the Cassiopeia, but that's the Trundle from Pepper. That's not a very happy matchup for him, as Kindred can absolutely kite it out and get those slows with Mounting Dread.
Yeah, so WE is just saying that while we have a poor jungle matchup, it's just great for our composition. That they have great poke off of the Varus Q, so you can play around that. Also gives them the added, I guess, structure, or at least you throw off the pillar and you can make some plays around it on Meganar. So those are plays that are now available to them. But just simply put, his role is just to lay down pillars in large team fights and allow Mystic to fire off with the space that's given to him.
And it is Team WE taking the hyper carry composition, the protect, the AD around Mystic. He got MVP in Game 1 with a stellar Kaisa performance, and Xie, the gold medalist of Asian Games 2018, is now returning towards that Lulu to follow up and reprise his role on the same champion, but with a different AD carry. Now, if WE win this, they bump out of last place and surpass OMG. So not all is lost for this team. They're still fighting for something.
Yeah, it feels something. It feels good for Pride that you can look back at that list and say, we weren't the last place team. But if you're talking about standing, you can already see head and hands here for Snake. They need this game to be able to buff themselves up into the playoff contention. Now, we already talked about that they technically could look towards tomorrow. But if you're looking towards EDG instead of WE, that you have some real problems. So this has to be the comeback here for Snake.
You can see a lot of heads already being held low from the Snake roster, as Team WE still looking very happy in this setup. They've got a 1-game lead in this best of 3. All they need is one more. Looks like we are running into some technical delays getting into this Game 2. Hopefully we'll get that resolved as quick as we can.
It gives me some time to talk about just the comp that Snake is running. It is actually pretty strong in terms of disengage. Galio and Braum are pretty strong in being able to kite a little bit back for their 280 carries. My worry is that I wanted to see a diving option. That there needs to be a dive buddy with the Galio so they can try and net down the Varus later on in the game. They don't really have that. A lot of the focus is now going to be on Ashe to be able to net her enchanted crystal arrows if they're going to go for those pick opportunities. So that's what I'm looking for right now. That it has to be the bottom lane to really carry the load for Snake in this comp.
The dive buddy perhaps of the Gnar could be the follow-up for anybody to try to set that up. But still, like you said, we're looking at Mystic. We're looking at Varus to put on this carry performance for Team WE. And there is a chance for Snake to try to break that apart. SOFM, very well-known Kindred player.
That's
not
true.
just because of how he plays Kindred, how he positions in team fights, but because he is capable of maneuvering around the jungle in such an intelligent way. We saw how in Game 1 he was able to set up massive amounts of vision for his team, but he couldn't do anything with it. Well, this time he can set up that same vision with the Kindred, but he can also start building marks, which builds damage.
The reason why he wasn't able to do too much is because he had himself a negative matchup. But this time around, flips over. He can try and look and challenge Raptor Camp. Same thing that Xie and Pepper were doing in Game 1. So this is what SOFM wants for himself. He wants to be able to help out mid lane a little bit with the range matchup that he has for himself. Walk up to Raptor Camp. Maybe he doesn't take it, but he knows where Pepper is, and he can track him to the next camp. That is what SOFM is famous for.
That's his most favorite place in the entire world. If you were to ask SOFM, if you had $1 million, where would you go? It would be to create a teleporter so he can teleport onto an actual Summoner's Rift and then just live in the Raptor camp.
Live with the Raptors.
Exactly.
That'd be a nice lifestyle.
And just try to make sure that he's always got control of the pit.
Just an infinite source of food, by the way, because you don't know where they come from.
They just
literally
appear. Yeah.
So that'd be a
Don't
good.
really have to worry about anything.
Very smart decision.
And you're right next to a river, scenic location over the hill.
Yep.
Dragons nearby, keeping other predators away.
You can somehow create a Summoner's Rift. A lot of people would want realty on that.
Oh yeah, but SOFM, he's got prime real estate on that Raptor camp. And the Kindred is the way to do that. Of course, a lot of that early setup is going to come down to early Scuttle Crab control, and that's where things get a little bit dicey for Team WE. Kindred, great at taking early Scuttle Crabs, but if Trundle walks into the river and there's already a Kindred there, it's going to be real risky for that Trundle to try and fight and deny that first mark.
That's why it all depends on how the adjacent lanes are going for the Trundle pick. Because you saw what happens last game if Trundle's being picked, but at the same time his lanes are not actually winning or not pushing out for him to walk out, poke his head out, then Trundle's just a sad panda. That's why you don't see a lot of
Tactful, yeah.
professional players going out there and playing Trundle in solo queue, because you're relying on a lot of your team members to help you out there. So for the Kindred, onus is on him to push forward, but it is also just a naturally reactive pick once you get past the laning phase, because you're always looking to protect the advantage that you have, and that relies on you to group up as well. So Kindred there are two jungle picks that I look towards and be like, I don't know if you're gonna keep that lead. It's Rek'Sai and it's Kindred. It's so difficult for you to keep your lead once you get it. So for the Kindred pick, it does mean that SOFM has to be on top of his game from minute 1 to 30.
And knowing that SOFM is a bit of a selfish player, perhaps a bit greedy, that could come down to how he uses those Lamb's respites, as there have been a couple of times where he's used it to save himself and only himself in some fights, which provides openings for the enemy team, because if you have Lamb's Respite under an Ashe, under a Galio, then they're free to just fire out and deal massive damage. But if you use it to defend yourself and leave the Ashe out to dry, well, that's exactly what Team WE want with their hyper-carry composition.
It leaves real ramifications, because with how many engage options WE has, being able to use a Varus ultimate on towards a Kindred, blow his LT, and then just wait for the next skirmish, so you can just challenge them in a real team fight, where suddenly you don't have Lemur's fight. But you have a fairly squishy comp, depending on how the Galio ends up building for himself. That's the real worry. If you get control around these major objectives, but you don't end up being able to make use out of them. So that's what I want to see out of both of these compositions. There's actually so much to track. That's why if you look towards a few people on your screen just before looking at Pepperu's Mystic, that with the Varus and Tahm Kench happening in the bottom side, that we can start to see him taking full control of the bottom lane. He didn't get to do that last game because Jhin and Tahm Kench played the most lane possible. They said, you're not touching us.
Yeah.
If we so much as
So
lose a small
defensive.
trade, we have the option to teleport right back or just be inside Tahm Kench's stomach. That's not available for Light any longer.
Yeah, but now they've got the Ashe and Braum. Now they've got something that can actually step up against that Varus and Tahm Kench for Team WE.
Yeah, that's true.
The question is, will they actually do that? Because in their playstyle for Game 1, they played back, they played defensive, they played that calm style. Team WE have already shown they can get momentum through that landing phase. It is a risk, it is a gambit.
Strong likelihood, because when Snake have played with the mage in the top lane, and I'm speaking truly towards the Vladimir and the Ryze picks, that they just let Flandre do his own thing. They allow him to just sit on the island in the top lane because they know he's going to do well there, and they make it so he is, if he's necessary for a teleport, he has great teleport flanks for those picks. And so I do expect bottom lane to be the priority, funny enough, from SOFM, that he can really make things happen post 6 minutes, level 6. So when you hit level 6 on the Ashe, that SOFM will have the availability.
And I think this is where we look to how Maestro pairs with SOFM, whether or not he's able to follow up in time whenever SOFM inevitably finds the enemy jungler at a camp or finds someone in rotation from Team WE, because there is so much follow-up from the rest of Team Snake if they ever find someone out of position. The arrow is very easy to land. The Galio can follow up with the hero's entrance. Kindred can chase them down with the mounting dread, but it's up to Maestro to set up that vision to enable Snake to look for those picks in the first place.
The longer the game goes on, as we're just about to get ourselves onto the wrist, the longer it goes on, it's actually lesser and lesser follow-up. Ashe Enchanted Crystal Arrow comes through, but then Galio technically can come in, but they don't have a true tank, and that's the real worry here from Snake, is someone who's willing to just take the brunt of the damage. We'll find out as we go into Game 2.
We absolutely will. As we load onto the Rift, it's Team Snake fighting for playoffs and Team WE fighting for pride. Already some action as Maestro is caught by the Glitter Lance.
One more!
He's used his heal and a flash to get out of there. But Team Snake, you can hear the crowd already.
Yeah, those are... The audience definitely wants to cheer for them. But the moment that happens, you're like, ooh, maybe not.
Ooh.
Maybe I'll just keep you do you. I'm not gonna try and take your mind off something else.
If that aggressive lane was supposed to work out for Snake, things just got a whole lot scarier with no summoner spells on the Braum. He's got Unsealed Spellbook, but needs those abilities to come off cooldown before he can swap them out.
So look at this. Ben didn't even have to use Flash to force Maestro to get out there, because if Maestro didn't use any of his summoners, that was the third proc of Tahm Kench coming through. That would 100% be the kill. So this is the situation that you're now in. You don't have heal in the lane anymore for a lane that should be winning. Light and Maestro will be on the back foot.
That acquired taste is so dangerous during the early invades, but Team WE mimicking second place seed EDG's earlier games with an invade finds Maestro out of position, force him to burn those summoner spells, setting themselves up in that bottom lane. Xie even doing the same by collapsing on the mid lane, but
Level
Pepper,
2 gank, baby.
he's thinking about making some Gouda cheese.
I've never seen this from a Trundle before. Absolutely never seen a Trundle or a Camille go for a level 2. No laner will be caught off guard by this.
Nobody will.
No one.
Except for Flandre, but he's playing nice and safe. And seeing Scuttle Crab spawn and be the marked crab, Pepper immediately steps up and takes it. Now, SOFM is at the blue buff. He's right there, and Pepper is going to step up and see this. Sees that SOFM is down at half health. Pepper didn't use his smite for that Scuttle, so he's going to start taking the blue.
SOFM doesn't want to play this longer game because while he does have... Okay, he's using a potion. Actually, he wants to commit to this. Even if SOFM's taking the damage from blue buff, he thinks he can resolve this quickly.
He's brought Guoguo and Flandre, and that's level 2 now picked up. Smite is going to secure it, but Pepper, caught by
Flash.
the Rune Pigeon from Flandre, goes down and gifts red blood to top.
There we have it. Bring in your adjacent lanes. Galio came through, and even though WE were well aware of Galio rotating, weren't prepared for Flandre's snare that he gave his team. So well job to both of them to net the kill. It's very decisive.
Yeah, and Snake collapsing on the communication despite Xie and 957 both having push pressure. They back out of the lane, sacrifice a full wave's worth of CS, but traded up for the assist onto SOFM and the kill onto Flandre. And already Team Snake showing us some growth on the top half of the map, but still not too much on that bottom side, though, as Light and Maestro are forced to catch this constant pressure from Mystic and Ben with no summoners on Maestro.
It's going to make it easier for Pepper to know which lane he wants to play through. Knowing that Light and Maestro are just sitting at tower for quite some time, they might end up losing real damage on that tower, so that's something we'll have to track for the next 10 minutes. See if that's going to be a possible dive. That being said, Pepper, he's already having a really good mid lane, so if I'm this jungler, I'll just take a full clear topside base and then try and go for a bottom lane dive. It's going to be dicey.
We'll see how that's going to work.
wouldn't do
SOFM
this.
is trying to heal himself up. There he goes. Wolf is going to start fading away, but those other Krugs are chasing him down. Blue buff gets him over the wall and back to base.
Because remember how much fog of war you're really working with if you're SOFM. You don't know where the Trundle is. You have a good idea that he started bot side, but you don't know how many camps he's doing on the way over to the Krugs. So remember, that is super safe for Pepper to walk up to his Krugs. The Nar's been pushing out for quite some time. So that was still a risk that SOFM took, trying to do that with such low HP.
Yeah, playing it within the window, finds the opportunity, and is even going to do the camp denial style. Doesn't completely clear out the Raptor camp, just takes the big one and a few of the small ones to make sure that Pepper has to waste some time there, further putting SOFM ahead, and still not even clearing out that Krug camp, leaving the two small ones to delay the timer even more, as his late ward will catch Pepper on that top half. And like you said, SOFM is bottom, but instead of a gank into the lane that's pushing, he's converting it into a dragon advantage.
He took such a long path to get here, so you knew that he was planning to try and solo the dragon. This dragon doesn't deal any real damage, so SOFM should be able to net it. But just smart, knowing that there could be soft vision placed by CA or Pepper. You didn't have vision of Pepper for quite some time, so he played the long way around it to find himself in the pit.
Very late smite is ready for SOFM. Like you said, low health, but never really any worry as long as there's no collapse from the lanes. I thought he was going to save his smite for a second there and be really greedy, but decides to go for the late smite and lock it down, and things already starting to open up for Team Snake with that first kill advantage and the early neutral advantage on that dragon. But Pepper is on the prowl.
And so with Snake's composition, SOFM, you might not want to be in front of this man. Snake's comp does want to find themselves in larger objectives, so playing around Dragon is going to be nice. That being said,
Uh-oh, Guoguo takes over to level 6.
Uh-oh.
Xie takes turret aggro instead of Pepper, and immediately that gank goes sour, and Snake are allowed to walk away with their mid lane safe.
Like, Pepper was nowhere near that tower for Xie to be landing damage and taking 2 tower shots for free, so that was just a direct misplay from Xie. But even if he had not taken those towers, that was not going to be a dive, because you're right, SOFM was nearby, he was going to be there to protect them. Here we go, Pepper right in front of Light. Where are you going,
Lands
buddy?
the pillar, forces Flash out of this. I don't know if there was any real follow-up from Ben or Mystic with low mana and on the opposite side of the wave, but still playing it safe. They don't want to risk any kills with Xie roaming out of the mid lane.
Yeah, they just knew the information that Xie wasn't there, so if Trundle was going to be throwing down a pillar, you almost have to assume that there's going to be an extra member behind him.
Teleport down into the bottom lane to get Light back over there as Team WE this time are the ones who set up plenty of vision controlling that bottom half of the map. Red buff has respawned for Pepper, but SOFM, as we said, the invade jungler, the tracking jungler, he's already on top of it as Pepper was forced to make a trade and is now going to take away the red buff of SOFM, but he did take away the Scuttle Crab in the river, which did spawn as a marked crab for SOFM, who is currently sitting at 1 mark. So still just playing that mark game, playing that jungle game against SOFM is so difficult.
Yeah, Pepper's been playing very well, I think, up against SOFM, because most of the junglers, when they get tried at their Krugs, they end up losing the Krug experience, because SOFM will just go take his own as well. But Pepper, knowing that how well bottom lane is doing, he's just taking full priority heading over there, taking the red buff at the same time. So in a matchup that's poor, all that's really happened is that they're just trading experience across the map, and the Trundle is completely avoiding SOFM.
Trying to make sure that he's safe to farm up to that level 6 and eventually affect those lanes once we start getting towards that mid game, towards those team fights, and relying on the lanes to take their own advantages, which is what we're seeing out of Mystic and Light.
It's going to be pooling into the bottom lane at some point. I would say the fact that the path from mid lane to bottom lane, the Silk Road, has actually been completely warded by WE. Sure, the nice control ward there is going to be able to hide Guoguo, but the issue is there's still a few more wards embedded deep inside your own jungle. It's going to make it difficult for SOFM to work if he's trying to defend his bottom lane.
If that's the style that SOFM wants to play, actually defending the bottom lane. We already talked about the volatility of the mid and top lane matchup, but so far it seems like he's been playing largely towards his own jungle strength. So it looks like he's waiting for the blast cone over the wall to try and get behind Team WE. There he goes.
Because Maestro, once he gets flashed, he can just move right in.
That's the dancing arrows, but Mystic at level 6 with Chains of Corruption, and Light, as you said, gets his own enchanted crystal arrow, decides not to pull the trigger.
They were so close for him. You can already see SOFM just setting up, but now that they have vision on him, Pepper immediately moving topside. Now there's no poor trade from Flandre, so he should be safe in a 2v1 situation. Just means that Pepper will net himself a blue buff and just trade across the map once again.
Again, he's actually even being kind enough to pass it over to Xie, whereas SOFM is taking the buff.
My experience.
Forcing Guoguo to hold the lane down in mid, but these are the slight trade-offs, as that slow will land. Ooh, copy the Winter's Bite. Ben still just holding on to the Devour and allowing Mystic to heal up, as he does have that Bilgewater Cutlass, but still SOFM hovering around here.
Get him now.
Forward in the river. That's the slow. Arrow onto Ben. A late cleanse gets him out safely.
And that is so frustrating to deal with, going up against the Tom Cantrip spellbook, because obviously he's going to start out with that cleanse. And so it's like, well, we burned a cleanse, but we didn't want to use our enchanted crystal arrow for that one play. Really narrows down your windows. So for Snake, at least it gives him a little bit of breathing time in the bottom lane. But across the board, they're just losing out in CS. Jungle's being traded. Mid lane and bottom lane have been suffering. The only real winner has been Flandre, but you can play towards top side. It's going to take a little time. And building up his tier.
This was the style that you were talking about for Snake. Was traditionally when he's been playing mages, he has been left out on a complete island on these rises, on these Vladimirs, and still able to take an advantage against 957 up there as a result of being left on an island. But still, there is an opportunity for him to continue to scale up. I'm a bit curious to see which style 957 decides to go for on this Gnar, if he looks for the split push on hit build, or if he looks for the tanky bruiser team fight build for Team WE, knowing that there already is so much frontline for Mystic elsewhere.
I think he'll just go for the split push build. Once upon a time, there was a good split between tank builds and split push builds, and in fact, the split push builds were a lot more rare to see. But at the moment, just seeing how stylistically, a lot of top laners, if they see the Gnar pick, they'll just go towards, finding himself solo lane pressure. Even with the heavy teamfight composition that they have here. In fact, WE will benefit more if he's challenging Flandre in a side lane and just isolating him in the pick. So this is what I want to see out of 957. There is still merit to tankier build.
Yeah.
Going for Gargoyle Stoneplay is still a possibility, but that just means that you have to play perfectly around the vision that you do have, because then you're just really all-inning on a Mega Gnar.
I mean, especially when you look at Snake's composition, they've got the Kindred, Ashe, and Arise for huge damage if they get up to a big late game. But as you said, getting to that point is going to be a little bit more difficult, as Xie is just bobbing and weaving between Gogo's abilities. SOFM is looking for a gank, but a Glitter Lance slows him down, and a teleport. The arrow will land from the bottom lane from Light. Xie with a Cleanse Flash trying to get out of this, but a Realm Warp. He's going going 1 versus 3. Flandre doesn't take the jump, and Snake throw every single thing they have at Xie until finally something sticks.
They really did throw a lot at him, didn't they? Even the teleport cancellation coming through, but a teleport nonetheless to just find themselves in the mid lane to net down the kill on towards Xie. It was a great enchanted crystal arrow. Sure, it burnt down a cleanse, but it made it a little bit easier to track him down and kill him. So good job for Snake to isolate the pick. Uh-oh. Oh
SOFM
no!
flash stun against the wall. Pepper's there. Lamb's respite. SOFM has his flash. How's he gonna outplay this one? Heals it to the side. Flash over the wall. Grand entrance. Attack on the red buff. Pepper with the pillar. Finally gets the auto and finds himself a kill.
That was just so difficult to outplay, but it all started with him being deep in the jungle and no one there to help him out. What happens when you walk down a narrow alley and then just find an oh, wait a minute.
There it is.
Oh, wait a second.
Scenic. Look how it changes with the elevation. That's called curving the arrow.
Boom.
Right on target. Right on target. And then the chase down. 4 members from Snake.
Rise walking over. Yeah, so just helping the team that it doesn't have to tend to his wave top lane. Good job to get the kill. Ace arrow from Light.
Now, it seems like out of the back of that play, Team WE made a rotation into the mid lane, the mid-tier 1, down to about 200, 300 health, as Mystic is feeling pretty big right now. 500 gold ahead off of a huge CS advantage over Light, and that's starting to capitalize on a neutral Infernal Dragon buff. You can see pings out towards the Rift Herald from Snake, but it seems as though WE already have vision in the pit.
There's just no real vision from Snake around River, which makes it difficult, obviously, just to help out in getting the Infernal Dragon. It's not going to be a possibility. But in tracking Mystic, even harder. Light's not even going to have teleport to protect mid lane if they end up going there. So it's going to be Varus picking up bot lane, but also going to be able to rotate mid.
Yeah, and Snake making a very early lane swap before the turret goes down. The first turret gold is split between Mystic, Pepper, and Ben, and they're pushing up all the way to the bottom. Now, Flandre is here with some wave clear. Mystic is ready. Looking for the Chains of Corruption, lands it. He's got Flash, gets out of this one. That's the Pillar of Ice. Pepper still thinking of a dive, but Mystic eats some big damage from Flandre. Archangels for a real big hit. That's a slow onto Pepper. They're still firing across, plus the Ignite. Pepper baiting it out as best he can, and Mystic under the turret gets the kill. It's saved by Ben's Devour.
He played that so well, but when it came to the final Q, didn't happen. Flandre just found himself in a 3v1 situation. It started bad because he tried to get some cheeky damage when he was in the bush, but all you had to do was hold the fort, because Light, as you mentioned, went towards the top side of the map, and Flandre was in a bad, weak side of the map, but he tried to make the play happen. So this starts with this. He tries to get some damage onto Mystic. Sure, he succeeds at it, but he blows his splash, and the Trundle is thinking about going on top of him. I said he played it well because look how many splash, like real splash damage hit Pepper, Mystic, and Ben throughout the entirety of the fight. He played it real well. If he hit that last Q, it'd be all right.
Yeah, that would have bounced off of Pepper.
But finding himself in the position to begin with was just poor.
Yes, trying to defend the tier 2. He did defend the inevitable push onto the tier 2, but the Rift Herald advantage is still over to Team Snake. SOFM sitting on that. He's got 3 minutes on the duration. Top tier 1 has been broken down, but mid and bottom are still opportunities for him to use it as Gorgo gets passed over that blue buff. And already Team WE did work down the mid tier 1, and there's still no defense from Snake onto the top tier turret. So it looks like this game is starting to break open just a little bit, but WE seem to be prepared this time by keeping Pepper next to 957 to potentially defend the bottom tier 1 or just trade it over.
There's not much that Snake can really do. Mystic once again finds himself incredibly far ahead, just CS alone. Maybe looking to try and counteract the mid lane push by sending out the first Rift Herald, but I don't think they can capitalize this at all. So they can't even take down this mid lane tower.
They just equalize the damage with the other turret as Mystic and Ben complete their Abyssal Voyage into the mid lane to defend it. 957 plays it safe against Flandre, doesn't walk up for the 1v1 to defend the tier 1 turret. So it does equalize 2 turrets to 2, but Flandre is looking for a Realm Warp into mid lane. Mystic trying to finish this turret off. The arrow hits. He's got no cleanse, but with Ben nearby, he's still fine. Chains of Corruption. He turns forward, but Ben pulls him back. As Flandre on the side finds Pepper. There's no follow-up just yet as 957 tries to get in, but there's a good wild growth onto Pepper, plus the subjugate denies it out. Gorgo gets in, though. well. And Pepper finally going to die to SOFM's auto over the wall. 957 with the slam is ready, but Realm Warp is set to pin him against the wall. They follow through, but Shie is firing across. 957 and Mystic are doing some work, but Quogo's happy to tank these hits. Ben stalling it out. Flandre steps up once again. Hero's entrance for damage reduction, but Ben pulls him back against his will. Flandre's low. The airy, but no second. Glitterlance, the flash. Pix gets the kill. And now 957 is on the prowl with his boomerangs, forcing Snake all the way back to their turret. Ooh, that one. Late flash from Light.
He didn't know if he had flash or not, too, so you don't have the time to look back to see if the guy's going to flash at you, so you spend the flash yourself. WWE is going to stay on the map and get an objective after that, too.
Yeah, like you said, Mystic and Shie standing his ground for so long, empowered by his team. Finally, they break down the turret and take the momentum lead against Snake.
This is what I like to see between Ben and Mystic, because Ben didn't use his W for some time because he knew that Mystic could actually deal some damage. There was going to be immediate follow-up. So Mystic gets saved, gets pushed back into the map, wait a little bit because they know Tron's going to tank a little bit, and they have to find themselves an exit strategy. This was a key moment for Snake because they wanted to get the flank across. So are you going to take the Realm Warp? Well, guess what? Might not be the best decision if you can't follow up. Flandre is trying to get the damage across, but there's way too many tanks in front of him between Ben and 957. That's the true tragedy between all of this, because you can take the Realm Warp if you want to continue the fight, but Flandre doesn't get any key targets, so he's the one who ends up dying after all of it's said and done.
Yeah, it was some very odd communication from Snake, dropping the Realm Warp, then walking out of it to send in Guoguo and Maestro as Ben will scoop Mystic down into the bottom lane, trying to chase Flandre down. He's got a long ways to go as that's the Realm Warp.
No, don't get turned into a pixie.
Gets separated right back out, looping around. But here's Pepper, Frozen Domain, Pillar of Ice, but Blast going over the wall, and he's out of there. Anything else for him to worry about now? Does he want you to pick up his laundry or take the kids to school? What else can he do?
At some point, age will get him.
That arrow launched out, found Pepper. Was that cleanse used by Ben? It was. I believe that was only the Winter's Bite that was sitting on him as he's trying to loop around towards the mid lane to defend it. But the wave crashes in with Guoguo and Light, and they might be able to break it down.
You can see Light's positioning. He doesn't want to go all in for it. He knows that if he tries to net the kill on the tower, he puts his neck on the line. Varus has ultimate, 100% is going to be picked, and they don't really have anything to save him. So it's smart from Light to recognize that he can't take that risk.
Now, Dragon is spawning in 20 seconds. WE with control of all of the outer turrets, and 957 having pushed top are prepping themselves in front of the pit. They've even got that marked Kindred Gromp if they want to take that away from SOFM. But for now, it seems like they're just content to control their lanes and look towards that next objective, as it is going to spawn onto the map and force Snake to take a defensive position 3,000 gold behind.
That's just going to be the first Earth Dragon for WE, so it's not something that you should be completely, you know, on your standing up for.
You think that Mystic is just going to walk in, aren't you?
I'm thinking about it. This is really weird. I think Snake has great priority on mid lane.
Andre walks up, Chains of Corruption misses. That's a good wall from Maestro to deny his damage, but Mystic now turning onto the Dragon. He's firing wildly. 957 gets Mega, bounces up, and the target is going to be the tanks on the far side. Gorgo with Shield of Duran. 957 backs away. Pepper subjugate, but you can see he's popping up and down. Wild Growth, Lamb's Respite, but Pepper hops in. He's happy to get the heal. Everyone is popped back up, but Flandre gets split. Finally, Pepper goes down, and a wall saves him, but Mystic chases.
One more!
Abyssal Voyage for the chase. Mystic wants it so bad, but it's Shie who gets the kill. Light is slowed. With no flash, he's got no chance of escaping. A Glitterlance nets a double for Team WE.
There we go. After all is said and done, with how much Pepper tanked in that fight, even just sitting inside that, you know, Lamb's Respite for a little bit, taking some time off, he soaked up so many of Snake's resources. By the end of it, they were just fighting it. Mystic, CA, full HP, nothing really to worry about. So it was just Snake working on what was limited time if you look back at this fight. Because this was a good fight for Snake at the very beginning of it, recognizing they can just nail down either 957 or Pepper. But the worry here is that they don't actually have a mid lane wave, so you can't play to take that mid lane tower. So you have to commit around Dragon, so you have to be ready to fight. So they're here ready to fight and to get the kill. Issue is, where's your exit strategy? So multiple flashes. So while they lost this team fight, it's only going to be worse because now Flandre doesn't have his flash. Light's kind of reeling a little bit. So it's really just struggling for Snake, knowing that they're taking these fights, and from the outset it was going to be poor.
And the Glitter Lance lockdown from Xie at the very end. As you said, Snake forcing way too heavily into that fight without an opportunity to escape, without using those flashes. And even still, the chase down from WE to get those kills at the very end, making it even riskier. Because remember, there's no tier 1 that Snake have to fall back to. Best case scenario, they ace Team WE, but that was a far cry from how that fight ended up going. Still, Team WE aren't able to defend the mid-tier 1 in time. It does go down, and Snake finally equalized the turrets, but it's still a 4,000 gold lead for Team WE and 2 fully completed items on that Varus.
Took 21 minutes to be able to get that turret, so if I'm WE, I'll take that as a win, knowing that at some point it was going to go down. The only real worry is now that it's, post-20, that Baron is on the table. Vision around it is still priority. Later the Rune King builders in both teams, but honestly the Guinsoo is going to give it pretty heavily to Mystic, that if he's on top of it, it's going to be very quick that they can burn it. Ardent Sensor being built up by CA means that the team fight, if not stronger before, was actually just going to be devastating now. So for WE, these team fights should be great. Around Baron, fast take on it, especially with that one Earth Dragon. So there's a lot to worry about if you're Snake.
They're trying to maintain some vision around that Baron side of the map. They're pushing in side waves right now to make sure that they don't get caught off guard. But now that the dragon has faded away, now that all of the outer turrets have fallen, things might slow down just a little bit, as the only opportunity for these teams to fight are if they decide to look for a pick off of the Enchanted Crystal Arrow or Chains of Corruption from Mystic or Light, or if they take a fight over the Baron. And only being 23 minutes in at 2 items per 80 carry, that's a bit of a risky play.
And at this stage of the game, especially since Snake's losing a lot of pressure on Baron, it's so much harder for them to follow up on an Enchanted Crystal Arrow. So if it lands, then who's going to take that first shot? Who's going to jump in? You would expect it to be Maestro, perhaps, and then Galio can follow through. But that's a very janky way of setting that up.
It really is. Now, take a look at this. Flandre's still split pushing, as expected, with this 1-4 setup, or potentially 1-3-1. From Snake. 957 is forced to head over and answer, but Flandre's already got the wave pushed up to the tier 2, and he's getting pretty close to teleport. Team WE could try to bait a play around the Baron, but it looks like they're just going to take the damage, absorb the CS deficit onto 957, and hold their ground, which allows Snake to step back into the river, and the Baron dance continues. Same song, different verse.
So this, if you're Snake, you don't want to rush the Baron just yet. In fact, you want to give as much time, gold, experience to Flandre. You can find him just getting full solo lane experience. You saw him pushing up mid lane, is going to be pushing towards the bottom lane. He doesn't have his outright second item. He's been between 2 items, getting his Morellos, but also getting his Righteous Glory. Righteous Glory would be a great way of starting these fights, because that's going to be a real difficult task for them doing so. So he also just had the Glacial Shroud just for the lane matchup, but I want to see him finish up his, let's say, get the AP first, get the Morella Nomicon so you can actually get the added cooldown reduction and push in the wave, and then finish off with the Righteous Glory so you can help your team out in team fights.
He's still split pushing bottom and keeping 957's attention busy, and WE have now reclaimed control over that Baron pit. So with a 25 some odd CS advantage, Team WE are the ones who are looking for SOFM. They have found him. That's a late teleport. Hero's entrance, arrow onto Xie into the back, and WE, they've locked themselves into a narrow corridor. Teleport completed from 957. Pepper with the Zeke's Convergence backs away. Mystic doesn't have his flash yet, but Light will step away. Xie's at low health. Somehow nobody died in all of that.
Hey, you know what? Some bad news first. Bad news, Guoguo and SOFM actually used both their ultimates to get themselves out of there to save SOFM. But good news, Xie almost died. So he actually has to go back to base. It saves him a lot of time. Congratulations for Snake that they got something out of it. Almost got the kill on towards Xie. So maybe Xie would have burnt Flash, but at that instance I actually sensed that he was going to die in this case.
He held his ground, yeah. Decides not to, but with the recall completed, he's finished off his Ardent Sensor now and is sitting on a Magi Soul Stealer at 9 stacks. Mystic has got himself a QSS, his flash and his heal are back up, and he's finished off that Zeal as well as he looks towards the Runon's Hurricane. Now Dragon has spawned, Snake have set up a trap, but it looks like Team WE are going to move as a unit. Ben steps up, sees SOFM and Light. Though that will be the snare onto Pepper. Remember, he's got no subjugate, he's got no flash, the stun doesn't proc, and Ben picks him up and spits him out.
If Snake can actually rob them of this wave, then they can actually force WE to move towards Dragon, but they didn't. Actually, Galio's moving to clear the wave.
957 is looking for a flank. Ben walks up. 957 has been
no.
spotted, but he's very far from Mega. Flandre drops a rune prison to force his way back, and Snake make their way back into a unified ramp.
Flandre's
Except
alone.
for Flandre. He's split off here. Arrow onto Pepper. He's forced to be saved by Ben. Mystic walks it up onto SOFM. Look at the damage. He doesn't even get a chance to flash away as he goes down. Gorgo tries to leap up. Knees to his chest, just tries to hold his ground. But it's a cannonball back into the graveyard for Guoguo as Xie and the rest of WE find 2 kills.
Where has Ben been all my life? I know they've been swapping between multiple supports, but his Tahm Kench is godly, and now they're going to be moving towards Baron.
This is the Guinsoo's damage that that Varus can bring. Constant auto attack shred through. Team Snake, they're defending by taking Mountain Dragon on the opposite side, but it's a mere pittance compared to the advantage that Team WE have opened up.
Yeah, you own Sadstreet right now. Just slapping this dragon. At least you can respect the animation because there's not much to respect in this game to Snake.
Things are looking real dire as it's nearly 6,000 gold, and it all starts from Ben leading the charge.
Yeah, I love the fact that WE as a team walks forward. 957 comes in at a flank. But this was great because WE takes full control here moving towards Flandre, but take a look at Ben. Obviously, unhand my jungler. You ain't touching him. There's no way you can start this fight, and walks forward towards Light and Maestro. You don't get a lot of times where you can highlight a support play in some of these team fights, so this is really good play from Ben.
That was the classic, don't talk to me or my jungler ever again. Out of Ben's Tahm Kench with that save. But now with Baron, Team WE have got a lot of threat onto these tier 2 turrets. They've already prepped top to push for them. You can see Guogo is trying to head up to defend. 957's taking a bit of time to prepare the bottom wave while Mystic and the rest of the team are prepared to group up mid and break down this next tier 2. But with 2.5 minutes on the clock, let's see what Snake can defend and what WE can break down.
Walk up. I mean, at this point, WE is super confident. Baron buff wave, and Galio is nowhere to be seen.
Mystic is tanking the turret right now, it should be noted. He auto-attacked SOFM under the turret and then proceeded to finish off the turret without getting a shield from Xie. So he's able to heal himself up off of this next wave with that Blade of the Ruined King, but that just shows how aggressive, how greedy Team WE are playing right now, and that they're getting away with it.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's the usual 80 carry autopilot mode when you know you have red buff, lifesteal. It's like, I lost some HP, but it doesn't really matter. I'm a good enough player to play out these situations.
They're setting up a siege mid, not waiting to collapse onto the bottom tier 2. She has some flank vision, but the arrow
okay,
on the
get out
Mystic
here.
in the front, and Ben picks him right back up.
Did he use QSS?
He did use QSS, yes.
Okay, well, that's the only fault I can play to him. Trust Ben.
Well, I mean, you mentioned it yourself, autopilot mode. And look at the damage onto SOFM once again. Flashes back out of this. Gorgo, a 3-man taunt, but that's the second cleanse now being used. Gorgo once again goes golden, but Xie finishes off the kill. Flandre finally walks up for the fight, but it's a little too late, and SOFM is forced to back away. Light is slowing it down, but Mystic walks him away. With Pepper tanking the turret, they break it down, and 3 members of Snake are dead. This could be WE closing out the series.
Too clean of a performance from Team WE, and that is what you hate to see if you're Snake. All of your games at the back end of this split, and you have to take these wins. They couldn't take the victory versus FPX, cannot take the victory versus Team WE. A 0-2 performance, and you have to highlight that. You know, dab on them, white flag and all. Snake now has to look towards tomorrow to net themselves a playoff spot.
And you can hear the fans chanting, Team WE with this victory. Tie themselves with OMG and match wins, but take the advantage in point victory, advancing out of last place, out of the dregs of the LPL. They hit rock bottom and are now pulling up. The only problem was that it was just a little bit too late.
You know, I would have given them seeding. Maybe next split seeding will be a little bit better, as you know, they're consoling Flandre, but they're in Sion. You're locked where you are.
Yes.
You ain't moving. So for WE, it's just pride in that instance. Coming out so strongly versus Snake shows to them that they deserve to be in a playoff spot if they were to play at their best. So lesson for next year, Team WE, start strong, because that was the difference between what was a playoff position and where you currently are now.
Yeah, I think that was the difference between Worlds semifinals just under 1 year ago and getting second to last place in the LPL summer split only 8-9 months later. But still, you can see big smiles from 957 and Pepper as they take this victory. Again, this match is all about pride for these players, as they have been eliminated from playoff contention and are just playing for themselves now.
Yeah, playing for their own successful individual play. Two things that I loved here was not just because we haven't seen Ben in so long. We've been seeing a lot more supports than just him. When he finally comes in, there's outright confidence, and it's just like he picked up where he last left it when it came with him and Mystic. So just natural synergy in the bottom lane. I want them to see them starting with Ben a lot more often. And the second point, Pepper. Getting real comfortable with WE.
Yeah.
Really feeling it. And so if this is what we're seeing from this iteration of WE, I'm very confident for next split.
And it's so interesting to see them play almost an RNG-esque style by playing hyper carry focus in the bottom lane through Mystic, enable that carry to really pop off, keep the jungler as a front line, keep the top lane as a front line. I mean, you could see the damage that 957 and Pepper did. It was all about Xie and Mystic's damage over the course of that game. So Team WE, they finally go back to that 80 carry-centric style, and it pays off.
Yeah, and you know what? One thing that I'll feel a little bit sad about is that we won't get to see the gold medalist CA in an international stage.
Yeah.
Goodbye, soldier.
Bit of a tragedy.
And also, we won't get to see Mystic back on that stage where he was and dominated last. So that's a little bit unfortunate, but you can just see the great thing about the LPL is that you lose one great 80 carry on that stage, and you're just replaced with multiple who will find themselves with, one of 3 seeds. So
Yeah.
of our 3 possible teams that go towards Worlds, we'll have great individual players no matter what. It just means that as a team, as Team WE, you can't just make it off of individual play. They learned that here today. Their team play is what ended up winning them that.
And of course, their opponents, though, Snake, we do have to talk about because
Oh, yeah.
they're still in the runnings for that 4th place spot.
We ain't done with you yet.
They play tomorrow against, I believe it's Team EDG,
Yes.
who are now locked 2nd in their group to decide who will go to playoffs. Edward Gaming get to choose who goes in as the 4th place seed out of their group,
Yes,
who
great
they will
Caesar.
have to play against if they end up winning against the 3rd place seed in the Eastern Conference.
This is when you call up your cousin and you're like, we were in the same block. Remember
Yeah,
those
exactly.
times? I know you.
Yeah. We used to get food together.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Remember those times? Those are great times. Maybe you should hire me at your nice establishment. Give me some good love.
Yeah.
Because this is when that relationship counts. This is when you can give them that
Is
backstage
it going to be about
access.
family, or is it going to be more about on stage? Does the LPL prevail? Is it about the victory to take that final series?
Maybe in other years, but this is a year where EDG has so much to prove to their own fans, their own organization, their owners. Edgar is just not happy with they're currently playing because with this team, EDG is like, wait a second, you guys aren't in playoff form. You had it rough versus FPX, so get it together.
Our MVP will go to Mystic for his performance in that game too. Surprise, surprise! You give a man a hyper carry, he wants to carry.
So I love this. I do. Mystic deserves what he gets. The guy is styling 2 games in a row, many series in a row. So he is just showcasing that you should never question him. Only thing though, let's give some love to our supports. Ben and Mystic. Maybe throw
Let's
both
save.
of them on the screen.
Yeah.
Men of the match, people of the match, plural of the match. Because this was another great play. But guess who I highlighted in this play?
Ben with the save.
Ben with the save. Ben walking up, and I understand this is a great double kill from Mystic that he was just walking it out, orb walking perfectly. And though I like to be able to call out strategically, the Tom Kench was excellent. Once again, Mystic just does so much with the shielding, the extra attack speed that he gets from Lulu. Like there was just so much working in his pocket that Mystic got exactly what he was given to him.
Yeah, that blight pop onto SOFM, he didn't even expect the damage. He had the Lamb's Respite, he had the flash to try to get out of that, but I believe it was like 400, 500 damage after 3 auto attacks, and then as he queued the next auto, tossed the hail of arrows to get that 4th midair stack pop.
Let me tell you about most Kindred players. Most Kindred players are asking themselves, that's enough damage?
Yeah,
Guess what,
yeah.
Kindred players? You don't have that much HP. That's just facts. A lot of times, Kindred players, by the end of a solo queue game, will be like, I didn't press my R at all this game. I was so close to doing it, but I thought I could survive.
Yeah.
A lot of damage out there in the world.
Drop it early to all Kindred players. Just put it down early.
Protect yourself at all times.
Better to be safe than sorry. That's the same thing with the flash mentality for players is, do I flash now because I think I can outplay it, or do I wait to try and react on the fly? Oh, no, it was too late and I died.
It's always difficult, but if you go up against stars like Mystic or Ben,
Flash early.
flash early.
Like we saw from Light trying to get out of this.
Best
Let's
guess,
take a
though.
look at her updated standings and see how everything is looking in that Western Conference. WE started from the bottom, Now they're
kinda
one
there.
step above the bottom in 6th place.
Started
Now
from the
they're
bottom.
here.
Now they're doing a little better. You
Yeah.
know, that's the way that song goes. But then the only thing that we wanted to see was the red, get solidified a little bit more. That the conference standings would at least be resolved, but it's nowhere near that.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's still going to decide who takes 4th place in the West and who's going to take 2nd/3rd in the East.
Come on, Raz. Haven't you read the script? We sent it out in the email just
I
a
don't
few
read
days
anything.
ago.
I
Just to
can't
keep
read.
you with what the storyline is. It's got to go all the way to the last game.
always does,
we
doesn't
can't,
it?
just like a good serial TV show, you got to binge it. You got to run to the end. If you know who the villain is by episode 3, then you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Let's take a look at tomorrow's matches. As we said, that script, it's coming down to the final game. Snake versus EDG will determine the playoff standings for the Western Conference. After that, we've got ourselves a brief appetizer to whet your palate, sort of relax. This one isn't
yes.
too much about the standings. This is Rogue Warriors in their last matchup against Team WE. But then afterwards, our match of the week, the final standings game, JD Gaming versus Royal Never Give Up.
And we get to find out who ends up taking the extra bye in the playoffs. Is it going to be RNG? Is it going to be JD? And the best thing about this, it does decide who's going to be in the IG side of the bracket. I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah.
Who's going to be facing them. Technically, you don't want to do that. I mean,
Yeah.
so taking 2nd place would put yourself in a much better side of the bracket. So double down on the positives.
Yeah.
Take 2nd place at all costs.
Taking 3rd place puts you with IG, EDG.
Yes, it
And
does.
then whoever we end up seeing taking that final 4th
You don't wanna do
spot.
that.
2nd place puts you against Rogue Warriors, which isn't all that much better.
TOP,
but
Sunning.
hey,
There's
there
actually
you
just so
go.
much going
Yeah.
over there. So you want to be on that side of the bracket.
Yeah, so we'll see how that matchup goes. Still a lot to play for these two.
One team that's looking closely at this, feeling a lot of pain, is FPX. Because FPX have been in this position. Last split, FPX tried to get into playoffs, didn't based off a point difference. WE went into the playoffs, and are back in the same damn spot. And it's going to be
the same thing.
them watching Snake to see if Snake takes down their older brother.
Yeah, well, we'll see. That match is going to start tomorrow, but that's going to do it for us. On behalf of myself, my co-caster, our previous analyst of Frost Current, and the whole production and broadcast crew, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow in our grand finale of the LPL 2018 summer season.